Hello and welcome to the Henry Pollei Does Music Related Things unofficial podcast title, episode 3. Some people, they really thought this podcast straight up got canceled because the hardships of 2020, overcame us. If you thought that, you are wrong, because we are still going during these incredibly trying times. So I haven't posted a podcast in a while, and we're going this. We have lots of purely just my life has been chaotic things to discuss with all of you. And if you don't care, well, I would still love if you could just sit down, get some popcorn, and enjoy this podcast. Because I need you. And I know that you, my friend, probably have better things to do with your time. You probably have an incredibly busy life, and I respect that. My life is kind of chaotic too, and I understand that sometimes it's hard fitting in time to just watch someone's podcast. But I would love if you could just sit down and watch. Frankly, let's say if you release an album, I'll make a deal with you. If you watch this podcast, I'll listen to your album when it gets released. And if you don't make music, well, then I'll partake and watch your creative endeavor when it gets released. How's that sound? That sounds good? Okay, good. Now that everybody's hearing the drill, where were we going with that sentence? And everything's been settled down, let's cut to the chase. Why has it been... I don't even know how many months. Why has it been X amount of months since I've uploaded? This was supposed to be like every other week podcast. So what the freak has been happening? Well, my friend, let me tell you a story. 2020 is really not a good year, frankly. It's not a good year for anybody, And if you're watching this in 2020, you know that. 2020 kind of sucks. It just sucks. It's not good for anybody. First of all, COVID-19. If you're a high schooler, every single fun high schooler thing you do has gotten canceled. We'll probably get into that more in depth, because I say that while also like a couple of months ago, I went to a dance. Unless if I discuss that in a second podcast, I don't really remember. And really, everyone's like sad because there's no fun things to do. No musician tours, all the concerts are canceled. Public gatherings, are canceled basically. It's just, everything is sad. It's all because of Harambe dying. Sorry, what? Harambe. No. But with that out of the way, all of that is impacted Henry Pollei. Let's talk. Let's get the chase. So, 2020, I had COVID-19. Ooh, you had COVID-19? Yes, I had COVID-19. That was before this podcast was filmed, though, so that doesn't necessarily affect the podcast. After the second episode of Henry Pollei Does Unofficial Music Things unofficial podcast title, I got mono. If you don't know what mono is, it's the disease that's transferred through saliva. If you don't know what saliva is, let me serenade you. Saliva is the stuff that's formed in your mouth to help break food apart when it's in your mouth. Also, side note, if you're wondering why my voice is so it's because 2020 has given me, once again, another sickness. This time it's not COVID or mono, though. I think it's just the cold. Wait, did I say? Wait, let me restart. This time, it's not COVID or mono. This time, 2020 has just given me what I'm thinking is the cold. So, that's good. That's why my voice sounds so bad, but we'll get to that. So I got mono. And mono, this one event, the event being talked about is me getting mono. has somehow made my life the past maybe like 3 months, ever since I got mono, so bad and so like dull, frankly. It's just ugh. First of all, when I had mono, I had it for about 4 weeks. I was let me correct myself. I was showing symptoms for about 4 weeks. Let me give you the history. I hung out with my girlfriend sometime. I have no idea. Could have been 3 months before I showed symptoms. Somehow, she gave me mono. Not somehow. Saliva was shared. I didn't like that. Somehow. And a couple months later, 5 months later, 10 months later, whatever, I start showing symptoms of mono. And I didn't know it was mono, okay, at the time. At first, I was playing the saxophone and my throat just kind of started hurting. And I was like, okay, honestly, this is pretty normal for me. You know, I have a lot of throat tension while playing. And, you know, maybe I just over practiced and I was just playing really tense today. And so that's why my throat is hurting. So I had some tea. I took a rest. I stopped playing. The next day, my throat was still like hurting. So at this point, I'm like, okay, this is a little weird. Right? This is a little weird. And then that day, the left side of my face, right above the left side of my lip, like right here, legitimately, it went like maybe 3/4 numb. This very small part of my face. It's like when you get a cavity and the numbing shot, it was that, but less extreme. No idea why. And then my left hand also started to kind of have weird like nerve problems. And was this caused by mono? No, probably not. It was caused by poor saxophone technique. The numb mouth thing though, I have literally no idea why that happened. Okay, so it basically sounds like I was having a stroke. I did not have a stroke, but it sounds like I was having a stroke. So that happened. So I was kind of freaking out. And then the next day, I'm getting progressively worse. I have a bunch of assignments due at school, and I have a test retake coming up that I have one day to retake. I had all this stuff. So during this time, you know, I don't like to say this, but I did go to school for 2 days being moderately, like pretty moderately sick, as like sore throat and obvious like kind of extreme just gross feeling around the body, right? But Henry, during the time of COVID-19, you went to school sick? Yes, I did. Before this, as I've explained to you, I had COVID-19, so I kind of knew what COVID-19 felt like, and I came to the conclusion, well, this was not COVID-19. Also, the chances of me getting COVID-19 again, you know, with the antibodies and shit, like it seemed kind of slim, especially since Jillian didn't have COVID-19. It was like, there's no other way I could have gotten it, right? But I went to school, and then it just gets worse and worse. It gets pretty bad. And then maybe a week later, it gets better. It starts to alleviate. It goes away. And I'm like, what? What even was this? Was this a cold? Was this a virus? Like, what the freak? Okay, and then a couple days later, I'm still not feeling like completely well. Like, I don't really have symptoms, but my body still feels kind of trash, if you know what I mean. It came back, the sickness. Well, it never left, really, but it came back. This time, it was a lot worse. So this is where it gets really bad. I'm really glad I'm just telling you my whole sickness story. This podcast probably won't be insanely music related if you already can tell. I'm really just explaining how hectic my life has been for the purpose of documenting it so I can look back and be like, oh yeah, 2020, second term in school, that sucked. Yeah, it did feature Henry. It really is not fun. Oh my gosh. But, so, let me adjust this. Blah, blah, blah. Can you hear me still? Blah, blah, blah. That happens, and then it comes back way worse. And basically, so my throat, let's do this in order. It's the day of General Conference. I don't know what day that is, but that's like a Mormon church thing. And my mom looks in the back of my throat, and we all thought I had like a virus, and I thought I had tonsillitis. Because it was just like my throat and my tonsils seemed kind of big. But there were white spots on the tonsils. So this is when it was like, okay, we need to go to the doctor. But it was Sunday, so all the normal hospitals are closed. So we went to this weird like children's hospital. I'm 16, so I guess I'm still considered a child, so I can go to these children's hospital things. It was pretty strange. There was like no one there because I live in Utah and it's general conference, like the middle of conference. And if you know how this works, there's a break, and then that's when everyone leaves their houses and goes shopping, and Utah's crazy. But during conference, there's no one. So it was weird. It was pretty creepy, this hospital, because just no one was there. There were, like 6 people, at the front desk, but it was just strange. So I get put into a room, and the hospital dude comes by and all this stuff. And he was like, yeah, you probably have mono. And it was like, what? Mono. And then my brain, oh, Jillian had mono as a kid. Wait, but she had that as a kid. By the way, Jillian's my girlfriend. Jillian was not kissing anyone as a 9-year-old. I said it's spread by saliva, so that means you can share drinks and get mono. I was like, well, how does that work? Mono apparently stays with you. Once you get it, it stays with you for the rest of your life. And most kids get this. Most people get this as kids, but it's just marked off as like, oh, just something, because it's not that bad and blah 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 whatever. It's not that bad as a kid. When you get older, it gets a lot worse apparently. So I was like, well, frick me, I guess. And then he goes into the details of mononucleosis. I can't pronounce that. So, stay tuned. I don't know. This is like story time with Henry. If you're still here, I guess you're going to learn a lot about this disease. And you're going to learn why not to kiss girls, frankly. Just don't, if you're a dude, well, or a girl. I know girls kissing girls, it's a little different. And, I know every guy is like, lesbians are so hot. Okay, besides the point. You're going to learn a lot about this virus. And I hope, I'm just pleading to you. Don't, just don't. Just don't. Don't even interact with girls. It's not worth it. So he's like, you have it for the rest of your life. And, if you're contagious with it, sometimes you don't know. Because you have it for the rest of your life, and it just like kind of chills inside of you. And sometimes it flares up, and sometimes that shows, and sometimes it doesn't show. So it's like, frick you, I guess. Right? Stays with the rest of your life. And then once you get it, right, your spleen, first of all, your freaking spleen can enlarge. Mine didn't, but so if you play like soccer or football or something, you have to stop playing because you could risk your spleen getting broken, snapped, popped. And then it gives you chronic fatigue for, like a year. Like this is multiple months of fatigue that it gives you. Like When I heard this, I was like, oh, wow, this is great. As if I'm not already like tired and overworked enough, I get to deal with chronic fatigue for multiple months. Maybe saying chronic fatigue is the wrong, like saying chronic. It's just crazy fatigue for a while, or it's just a placebo, right? No, to some extent, yeah. But it gives you that. So at this point, I'm like, holy frick, like frick me. And I'm already in so much pain. My throat hurts so bad. Okay, but, we get the news, and then it's like, oh, well, how do we actually know if it's mono? Because the doctor's reasoning behind saying it was mono is because of how long this was lasting. Remember, I said this was like 2 weeks. Like, strep doesn't last that long usually. And if it did last that long, something's like wrong, basically. And he was like, yeah, the only thing really can be mono, realistically. But we want to make sure. So the only way to make sure is a freaking blood test. Oh my gosh. So then I'm like, okay, I have to get a blood test. Great. So we drive over to the blood testing place by a legit hospital. And no one's there. Super creepy stuff again. Like, we get in and we go in and get situated instantly. There's this old grandma lady wearing hospital stuff that's like, Henry, here. Whatever. I go into this room and it has this like big chair, like really big chair. And I sit in it. And she, puts the like band right here. I have a photo of it. Band right here, so blood shiz or whatever. I don't know why, blood pressure stuff to get ready to draw blood. And basically she draws the blood, and I'm sitting there like, holy frick, I hate this so much. I don't know anyone that doesn't dislike having a needle stabbed in them, but like, dude, it's so uncomfortable, especially when it's your own blood. Like, this wasn't like done. It was like, yeah, not fun stuff. And she's asking me like about the weather while the blood is being drawn. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so uncomfortable. I frankly don't care about the weather. I'm so miserable, and I've been so miserable the past couple of weeks. Like, I don't care. Done. The blood gets drawn, and we drive away. And then the sickness gets a lot worse, believe it or not. It got to the point, so there was so much swelling and pain that literally my neck like grew a ton because of the sweat. And it looked like I was an obese man because there was so much just crap here and swelling because of the pain. Like, I don't know why this was so painful, but it was. Every time I swallowed, I literally had to like go into a ball and like clench onto something to swallow because it hurt so bad. Like, I would cry in pain. And I've never, like, when I'm sick, I'm not, like, I don't like being sick, but I'm not like, I'm like, I'm gonna get over this soon, and it's fine. But this was hell, dude. I couldn't even talk. Like, I was like this. I couldn't like do anything because it hurt so bad. It's kind of incredible looking back. I think I do genuinely have some PTSD from it. So yeah, it got a lot worse, and eating was basically impossible. I had to have soup just every day, and still that hurt super bad. And when I'm saying I'm literally crying, like one point I cried because of the pain I was in. One night, I remember specifically, it was, yeah, I thought I thought like, it was bad. Yeah, it was bad. I know I'm kind of fumbling over my words right now. Sorry about that. I need to get my thoughts back together. So I'm like, I will do literally anything to make this better. And I know with mono, it can't be treated, but I do not care. I cannot live my life with this much pain because I cannot function. And I am so like depressed and everything is so bad. So we go to the hospital for the third time. I forgot about the first time. The first time I went to the hospital was before the off-brand hospital experience. All they said was, get a COVID test, and we'll talk about that later. I did get a COVID test, and I did not test positive for COVID, believe it or not. We go to the hospital again, and I couldn't talk to the guy and to my doctor and like explain stuff because I was in so much pain and I couldn't talk. My mom had to do all the talking, and we got some steroid or something that was like supposed to help. I don't really know if it did anything, but I did take it, and about 2 days later, it did start to get better. So, holy balls. I know. And I know talking about this, I can't really like convey the pain and misery I was in, but hopefully this statement will help you like understand. So as I said, I got COVID-19 and then mono. This was so much worse than COVID-19. I can't believe proportionally how much worse this was. COVID-19 was like a walk in the park compared to this. With COVID, I did get like mild symptoms from I didn't have to get hospitalized or something. I'm also like a kid. The worst part was the weird lungs feeling all fuzzy and like kind of just weird. And just my eyes stung and being super tired, right? But this was like so much pain, unbearable pain. I can't. But that's why the podcast has been kind of dead because that happened. And well, now I'm sick again, but there's still a lot more to talk about. So let's keep going with the story. If you're still here, I hope you're enjoying. If you like the story, please drop a like. And if you feel bad for me, yeah, it's not the best time, but don't feel too bad. I don't have mono, so well, I do have mono. I'm not okay. I'm not in pain. I feel much better. Don't cry. So and then I get better, but I'm just really kind of tired most of the time afterwards. And here's some context. I missed, like, I couldn't go to school. I cannot go to school. So I had to miss, I think, like 3 weeks of school, and it was the end of the term. So that means all the big tests, all the big finals. So by the end of the term, I had all F's on Skyward because I was gone because I had mono. So it's like, what the frick am I supposed to do? Like, I know there's online school, for kids who get quarantined. Like, but I couldn't do that because I couldn't function as I had to sit down and, like, be in pain. Not like I hope I'm convinced it's not like a normal virus or something, like where you're just miserable and you can kind of do stuff. No, it was like much worse. So I couldn't do online school. So my mom had to email. Henry Pollei, blah, 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 has been sick, blah, 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 blah. So basically, I guess apparently this year because of COVID, teachers, the Alpine School District added the ability to give eyes to students, and I stands for incomplete. So I got eyes. Some teachers just still gave me F's because it really doesn't matter because teachers can change the grade after the term's done. I'm like, okay, cool. I guess that's nice. Now I'm just going to have to do like double the work when I get back from school. Do last term's work and this term's work. Here's some context. I have 2 AP classes and chemistry and math. So That's okay. That's a lot of stuff. I have AP Lit, which is unbearably hard, and I have AP Music Theory, which if anybody listening to this has taken AP Music Theory or has remembered the time when they were first doing music theory and when they didn't know anything about music theory, you know how hard it is. This class is difficult. And yeah, so basically I'm in difficult classes. So basically I was like really freaking behind. And I get back to school and it's term 2. Okay, so we're at term 2 and I've gone over this. Now I'm just really tired, but I'm like, okay, cool, fresh start. Let's try and get all this crap done with and we'll move on and everything will be fine. Well, believe it or not, 2020 decided, well, you see, actually, let's make it so you literally like don't have the time to do any of that. Music takes up an incredible amount of time, right? And I'm not talking about like, oh, I'm going to play the piano for 30 minutes a day and then compose for like 20 minutes a day. I'm talking about like, I want to get an hour of piano in a day. I want to get an hour in a saxophone in a day. And then I want to get computer digital audio workstation stuff. And then that could take, however long. And then, performances, and I'm in this outside band program called the Sound House. That takes a lot of time. It's kind of insane. So that plus school plus I became a very busy person, and then I really had to learn how to be effective with my time and try and just be smart with how I use my time, right? Because time was important because I had to make up a lot of stuff and do a lot of stuff. But we are now here. And what are my grades in first term? We are we're a week after midterm of second term. There's some context. Believe it or not, it's not good. It's not good. Also, I know some people would probably be weird about like sharing their grades with people. Who cares? Band A, Chemistry B, Financial Lit I, Video Production A, AP Music Theory I, Math C+, AP English C, Jazz Band A. That's bad. That's not great. So here's the situation. Jazz Band A, boom, don't need to worry about that. AP English C, still working on that. And I'm assuming the teacher's still going to let me turn in first term stuff. Frankly, I don't know. Because I haven't talked to her about it maybe like a week, 2 weeks. I don't know. I assume that she would. Secondary math, C+. I made an executive decision to just leave it at that. C+ is really bad, but it's math. I'm over it. AP Music Theory I. So I don't know the grade, but I think it would be it wouldn't be good. Let's just say that because I have a lot of S. This is for first term, remember. Video Production A, Financial Lit I, Chemistry B, that's final, and Advanced 170 A. Okay, so it's not that bad, but there's still a lot to be done. This term's grade, Jazz Band A, AP English B+. Okay, that is the one, I worked very hard to get that B+. Secondary Math, D+. AP Music Theory F, Video Production F, Financial Lit D-, Chemistry D, and Advanced 170 A. Those are my grades. Midterm for term 2. So you can tell I am behind in the process of getting everything done. And that means second term, some things had to kind of felt like, for example, math. I had to kind of go on the side, frankly, so I could do other things that take up a lot of time, like AP freaking Music Theory. Oh my gosh. But frankly, that is why there hasn't been a podcast, because I have a lot on my plate right now. And I say I have a lot on my plate, but right now, the past couple of days, it's been Thanksgiving break. I haven't done any of that. So you're like, what the frick? You have all this free time, why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you doing all the homework? And, that is a logical thing to say. Frankly, that's like, yeah, why haven't I done? Well, because okay, it's a break, and I wanted to give myself a break because I was like mentally, I was like, we were on the struggle bus. Um, I wanted to give myself a break, and I also just got sick again. And as I said before, I think it's just the cold. I've had this for 2 days, but it's not like I'm definitely. But the biggest thing is I'm just like tired and like groggy and, just sick body stuff. And that plus the COVID-19 fatigue and the mono fatigue. Basically, I'm pretty fatigued right now. Like, kind of constantly. Everything just kind of is gray and tired and just, you know. But it sounds like, it sounds like I'm explaining what, like, depression is. But it's just, there's a lot of crap going on, and it's COVID-19. It's just, like, overwhelming, really. But this is not therapy, right? This is supposed to be fun. Henry, why are you talking about all this sad, mopey stuff? Like, no one cares you're sick. Okay, maybe you don't care, but some people care why the podcast wasn't happening, and this is why the podcast was not happening, because I have been sick. And when I haven't been sick, I've been trying to just stay caught up with life, because life is going by fast, and I could kind of not catch up. Oh, frick me, I have math due tomorrow. It's an A day. Yeah, it's Sunday. If any teenager, has ever lived a life, that Sundays are kind of not good, dude. They're not good days. This is what most people, I feel like they think. It's just like, what am I supposed to do with this day? And then it's just being stressed about the week ahead. It's just like, oh, can we get to Monday now? That's kind of how I feel right now. But I'm making this podcast to alleviate my mind from all the stresses of school. The biggest fatal flaw of this term has been me getting mono, because that kind of just screwed up multiple months of my life. Like, pretty legitimately. I don't really say that as a hyperbole. It kind of just screwed up with this whole term. And I'm so ready for it to be done. And I am so ready for December break, for Christmas break. Because then I'm done with term 1 and term 2. Like, the stress of school right now is unbelievable. I've never been this stressed out in my life. And it is my fault, frankly. Maybe mono. I can't really control that. But me choosing to do hard classes, like, that is totally my fault. But also, let's go through my perspective last year. Okay, last year was really good. I was like, this is fun. It's like I'm having a good time. I'm happy. I'm getting better at music. It's like I went to New Orleans. It's like, oh, I have this girlfriend, and I'm like, I'm happy, and everything's good. Jazz, jazz band is great. I'm in the better jazz band. We're doing good at the festivals. Frankly, it was just a much better time overall. I could perform at concerts. I could play live music for people. And then COVID-19, COVID-19 happened to hit. But before that, during the before times, you choose what classes you want to take next year. And in this mindset, I was like, yeah, I can push myself a little bit. I can do AP English and AP Music Theory. I was like, okay, 2 AP classes, that's a little intense for me, knowing how much other things I do and how kind of lazy I tend to be. Lazy and sluggish and slow. I'm a slow learner, really. Like, it can take me a bit for things to like. It depends on what subject. If we're talking about math or something, I really have to just kind of stare at something, stare at my notes, and like really slowly and methodically think it out. And that's why, holy frick, I need to get caught up on math. With math, if you miss a day and it's like something that matters, the next day will make 0 sense. And I've had those days, it's been like 2 days, where it's been like, frick, I have no idea what's going on and I need to do previous homework. And then I somehow managed to not do the previous homework. I know. I hate myself too. I know. It's kind of therapeutic, honestly, to talk about this. It's only 6:34. It feels like 9. Yeah, man, we're getting into the sad months. I say sad like seasonal affective. Is that a seasonal affective disorder? That's when everyone gets depressed or whatever. Because there's no sun. No one's getting vitamin D. But yeah, I'm a slow learner. So I was like, okay, this might be a bit of a challenge and I'll have more things to do. But it'll be fine. Well, little did I know. COVID-19 happened. Everyone became quarantined. Quarantine blues hit, right? Sad boy hours. And then I happened to get COVID-19. Now new studies are talking about how that like gives you like depression and like neurological crap. Well, it doesn't necessarily do that, but for some people it does, like 20% or something. I know the research is changing and maybe that depression isn't necessarily caused by COVID-19. The COVID-19 causes you to sit and do nothing for 2 weeks and quarantine yourself. And you sitting and doing nothing, quarantining yourself for 2 weeks, gave you the depression or whatever, the sad boy hours. So that happened. And then quarantine blues. Like, that was such a strange, surreal time. 2020 is just surreal. This is like a joke. This is just a big joke. And then I didn't know I'd get money. Like, I didn't know all these things would happen, okay? When I was scheduling my classes. Looking back, if I knew all this was going to happen, I would take the easiest classes I humanly could. Because this year is so trashy. The idea of like working on stuff to actually learn at this point is so, it's like that went away a while ago, at least for me and where I am right now. And I know my situation's kind of chaotic, having to do work on 16 letter grades at a time. But I'm like, my mindset is not, I want to learn. It's like, I need to just get a somewhat good grade so I can get this over with, because I am like depressed and stressed and freaked out about this, right? Ugh, maybe a bit of hyperbole. I keep saying I'm not depressed. I mean, that's just like, well, I'm overwhelmed. Yeah. I would have done AP English or AP Music Theory or Chemistry. What are some other classes? Financial Lit. I would have done that online. Yeah, for sure. Band, band's band. I still would have done. Video production still would have done. Because, it's video production. But, yeah, man. So that's kind of my life. I kind of explained to you my life in for maybe 4 months. I don't know. The end of first term, halfway through second term. That's been my life. It's been kind of chaotic. Well, also really boring, if that makes sense. Like, you have a lot of stuff to do, but that stuff is really boring. That's making you just feel like dull and glum, right? Henry, why is this podcast so depressing? I don't know. Because it's 2020. I'm not going to act like crazy happy and talk about crazy happy things because I don't have a lot of crazy happy things going on, frankly. No, I do. I have a cat. I have parents who are loving. I make music I like. I'm making an album. I'm working on another album. Through the Nebula, coming sometime. Be on the lookout. From the Time Cube, the group that everybody knows. This podcast goes on my Teddy P account, and that is kind of like, that's the music account, and music, Time Cube. You should know what the Time Cube is. If you haven't listened to that album I worked on, link in description. That was a really good plug-in, Henry. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Well, no, that felt a little weird. I guess my sore throat. This is just the water break. I hope you guys, if you're an audio listener, which, if you didn't know, this podcast is on like every single podcast hosting website. There freaking is. Link in description if you're on YouTube. If you're an audio listener, you can't see my very, very large water bottle. Some of you thought I was going to say something else. Some of you thought I was going to say something sexual, like penis. No. Get your mind out of the gutter. But some of you can't see my very, very large water bottle. It's called the Titan. I got it at Costco. Probably one of the best investments I've ever made. For the audio listeners, it's this just very, very, very large stainless steel, very heavy duty looking water bottle. It looks like, a gun case or something. It has that kind of aesthetic, just like all black, very heavy duty, very intimidating. I strike fear into people's hearts with the sheer size of this water bottle. I bring this thing to school very occasionally, because I'm just a thirsty boy. Your boy needs the water. And whenever I bring this to school, dude, I get the weirdest looks, which is understandable. This thing's very large. But someone always has to comment, "Oh my gosh, that water bottle is so big." Yes, really, it is very big. You think I have never gotten this comment before? Thank you. I know that is very big. Thank you. Wow, why'd the GoPro just stop recording? What the frick? One moment. I don't know why, but my GoPro just stopped recording. Hopefully... GoPro, start recording. That's why. It's because I literally said, okay, well, I can't say it, but like those two words that I can't say because then the GoPro will do something. It will recording. But wow, that was funny. Okay, I don't even know what I was talking about though. I was like getting in the groove of the things, man. I was like getting all groovy and roovy. But yeah, man. Life is rough. But 2020 is all bad. I know this has been kind of a more depressive podcast. Really, I was just explaining objectively why I haven't done a ton of podcasts because, as I've restated a jillion times, I've had all this crap going on. and all that just happened to be kind of like glum and like miserable. I know, 2020, man. And these are the sad boy hours. Yeah. It's not like 2021's gonna be that much better, right? You know. Whenever there's a freaking vaccine and that gets to all the people, which takes a while, things will be better. But who knows when that'll happen. 2021 sometime, right? Like, I want to go to the freaking movie theater. I haven't been in the movie theater in so long. I just want to watch movies on a big screen and have fun and go to concerts and blah, 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 blah. But there's good things. 2020 has taught me how to... It's taught me how to use my time, I think, a lot better. Just how to be chill with yourself, I guess. I've never really had a problem with that. Like, I'm fine just being with myself because I'm an introvert. And, frankly, who needs other people, right? It's like, I know all these people who hang out with other people, like their friends or whatever, because when they're at home, all they do is think about all their problems. And then they get overwhelmed with stress and have anxiety. And I'm like, why to just deal with that and not hang out with other people? So then you can just like be at home and be by yourself and have your thoughts, but the thoughts are all good. And you're like, oh, I love myself. And I don't have all these problems. Yeah. To anyone who does have that, though, that wasn't supposed to be making fun of you, please, get that assessed. But I know a lot of people, like, quarantine kind of, I guess that extroverts struggle with the whole, like, oh, I can't hang out with people. Yeah, I don't have that, but yeah, making music. Learned how to use Ableton a lot better. Still working on it. Mixing and stuff, that's hard. Getting good sounding songs is also hard. But, yeah, man. I don't know what music things to talk about. I know this is the Henry Pollei Does Music Things podcast. And in the third episode, we did not do any music thing. But here's an update. Saxophone to saxophone. I've learned my Dorian scales and my Mixolydian scales. Frankly, Mixolydian scales they sound dumb. I don't really like the sound. Maybe I'm just not used to them because I play them and I'm like, oh, this is a major scale. But then the seventh note is like, go down a half step. It's like, come on, I need that leading tone, that goes up a half step. Come on. But, yeah, Dorian scales are hip, though. I learned those. I'm going to work on my 2-5-1 chord 1 through 5 7 9 like arpeggios. And I frankly should have done that like 3 years ago. I feel like maybe this right now in my life, it's just me playing catch up. Like, I should have done all this stuff a while ago. Like, I should have made up all those first term assignments a while ago. I should have learned my Dorian and Mixolydian skills. I should have learned those in 9th grade because we worked on at least Dorian scales in 9th grade jazz band. But it's like, come on. As I've said, I think I've learned to use my time more effectively 2020 because looking back, it's like, okay, if you're going to learn the Mixolydian and the Dorian scales in 9th grade, you should learn them to memorize them, right? If you're just learning them to pass them off and not memorizing, that's not using your time. That's just frankly wasting your time, I know I say that, and I'm kind of contradicting myself because earlier I said, school, I'm just doing stuff so I can get a good grade. Here's the thing. I think you have to determine what is actually important in your life. And okay, maybe Dorian and Mixolydian scales aren't actually like that important. Okay, but to a musician, knowing your scales and getting them grounded, that's like a very fundamental part, especially in jazz. Like, the reason why I'm learning these scales and memorizing them and their corresponding 1 through 5 7 9 arpeggios is to get better at soloing. And that is literally the foundation of jazz. So, and I think that's important to me. I know what is important to me, and I want to be a very good musician. Right, that's the goal, right? Um, but I know that, and then I know that AP English is important to me and for me as a writer. Like, writing well is a skill that's good for every human being, but I know that I can write reasonably well enough, and that doing a weird quiz about God's grandeur and like all this crap and obscure poems, like I know it's not important. So, but I still have to get it done so I could get maybe a reasonable GPA. But yeah, I think maybe the podcast has come too close. I don't know how long. I think it's about 45, 50 minutes, maybe. I think that's a good time to end. I went over all this stuff. Next podcast, hopefully, next week or something. I would like to just get this back on track, because I like doing this podcast, and I like giving Teddy P content stuff, right? Like the Teddy P YouTube channel, and I don't know, it's just a podcast. It's fun. I like talking, and I know I'm not the best talker, and I know, frankly, I'm saying frankly so much this podcast, but I know my voice is less than desirable to listen to right now. And I get that. It sounds like I have one massive congestion zone. And I respond to that with saying, well, I do have one massive congestion zone. It's very irritating, but it is what it is, man. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. I'll end it off with that. I love every one of you. And I know if you actually got to the end of this, you're a hip cat. And you probably could have used your time better. But as I said in the beginning, I help you out and you help me out by watching this podcast. So thank you. But I know 2020 is hard. And yeah, this podcast just reaffirms it by expressing to you all the dumb stuff in my life that has happened. But hopefully so the good. Like making music, I guess. Music is really holding 2020 together for me. That's really gross noise. Okay, I better end this. Goodbye. Adios. See you next time. And if you're on Spotify or an audio listener, thank you. I love you even more. You are an incredible person and you deserve better. Okay. Goodbye, everyone.